Hey, Facebook, Charlotte here. I've been saying for a long time that I'm going to make a video, and I never do it. And the reason why I never do it is because I have absolutely no editing skills at all whatsoever. Furthermore, I'm a mom. I never get time alone ever. Every 5 minutes I have someone up my ass, so I never get to accomplish anything. Matter of fact, right now I'm hiding in my daughter's room. You can see the pink and the makeup vanity and everything. It's the only place I'm going to get silence because she's gone right now. So I'm taking 5 minutes to answer a question tonight, a question that I get posed often. Because as many of you people know, I used to run an atheist website way back in the 90s when I was going to Carroll for my undergrad in comparative religions. And so religion becomes a topic for me a lot. And when I was going for my undergrad, I started to not be a believer in Christianity anymore. And as I was discovering these scriptural errors, I began writing them and posting them on the internet. And I inadvertently built one of the first atheist websites on the net back then. And I left the community, I grew up, got married, have kids to raise. But things have really exploded. And I'm happy to see it. But there is one problem. Most of the people that are very, very vocal in the atheist community either don't have a degree in academia at all, so they have powerful, emotive, logic-based arguments, or else they're in the science field, such as, look at Richard Dawkins in his field of science, or look at Christopher Hitchens in his field of journalism. So there's well-accomplished people out there, but there's no one actually in the field of religion, armed with historical facts of theology. And that's a problem, because I think one of the strongest arguments against religion is actually found in my field. So tonight, I'm going to answer from the academic perspective the question that I get asked all the time: Charlotte, how long have people been religious? Now, I know what they're asking me when they ask me that question. How old is religion? And you can enter, the common sense kind of layman answer, which is, the oldest religion in the world is Hinduism. But that's not actually the academic answer. And I'm going to answer it from an academic perspective. Socrates, a philosopher that existed 3,000 years ago, father of logic, developed what is called the Socratic method. And that's because he lived during a time in which the higher classes would get you good if you did not hold up the prescriptions for society that they wanted you to hold up. I don't remember if it's Pliny the Younger or Seneca the Younger, but he summed up what the tool of religion was well. It was something along the lines of, the foolish believe in the gods. The rich use the tool of the gods to control the foolish. And the wise know the game. So, something along those lines. Completely paraphrasing, but that's the point. Socrates is one of the very first outspoken atheists. Well, not even necessarily an atheist, but more like an agnostic for his time. Or a very, very, very loose theist. And of course, he was killed, like most atheists were killed, and are still being killed in many countries around the world. So, Socrates had to develop this way of answering questions, known as the Socratic method, which is where he would answer your question with a question. Because that way, when you asked yourself that question and you had to answer it, you couldn't get mad at anyone but yourself for answering that question. He would deliver it in such a way that he would expose the fallacy in your thought process. And that's how I'm going to answer. Charlotte, how long have people believed in religion for? How old is religion? And my answer would be, as an academic of religion, who says that only people are religious? Because the honest answer is, it's not just people that are religious. It's not just the Homo sapien. We can argue that there are other species that are actually religious. The word religious is Latin. It's means to interlock or to connect. It comes from actually Sanskrit. Sanskrit's word for religion was yoga. About the yoginis, which are people that impart religion in India. But yoga also has its root with yoke, for instance, and a yoke is something that you interlock it together. So really, in its root lexical term, religion is when you interconnect, when you interlock with that transcendent feeling of awe for life or God or creation or energy, whatever you want to call it. That is essentially what the root of religion is. Some people have argued you have to believe in God in order to have a religion. And that's the layman terms definition. But John Elwood, who is a famous religious academic, or I should say religion academic, basically made the argument that religion is the vehicle that allows the species to transcend from the physical limited reality to the unconditional, the unlimited reality in the mind, if that makes sense. So we know that humans aren't the only ones that do this. One of my favorite primates, Jane Goodall, got together a lot of evidence. I wanted to be Jane Goodall when I was young, by the way. I even taught myself sign language so I could be just like her. But anyways, she discovered some evidence of bonobos and chimpanzees that were breaking into ritualistic dances in front of waterfalls and celebrating actually different natural phenomena. We know that whales have a transmutable, generational knowledge, that they actually grieve, that they have rituals of forgiveness, that they take their dead along with them, often attempt to get them air by pushing them to the surface. And when they die, they also will float down their body and hold them against the sand. And dolphins do this stuff too. They literally attempt to bury and beach their dead. They mourn for their dead. Elephants are famous for gathering together in a herd and everybody stroking their trunks over the remains of a dying fellow amongst them. Lots of different animals have had a concept of death and a concept of mourning and a concept of celebration and interlocking with nature. Human beings aren't the only one. That's an egotistical idea because we haven't bothered to learn how to communicate with other species right here on this planet, our animal brethren, because we're so busy wanting to believe that we're more special. In the religious mind, it's more acceptable to believe that we were formed out of mud and God blew on us, instead of believe that we evolved from all these other amazing species around us and that we have an interconnection with all of the globe and all of life. Anyways, so we know we're not the only species. To be more exact, take for instance the Homo sapien relative Neanderthals. We know for a fact that Neanderthals did venerate some things, especially the cave bear. They made artwork of it. They made ornamentation out of it. They had a concept of sacrificial ritual to it in hope that it would give them luck for the hunt. And they also do something that's very peculiar. Human beings make tools, and it takes time, a lot of labor in order to make tools, and some tools are hard to find. One of the first tools that human beings made was out of the Oldham tool factory in the Gorge Rift of Africa. And we fashioned essentially out of special flint stone axes. And it took a lot of time in order to make these. And, if you go back in the archaeological history, like 70,000, 100,000 years, when we found a dead person drop, we would take all the tools off of them and just keep going, right? Because why would you leave this precious, labor-intensive item with somebody? They don't need it, right? But you're living. You're going to strip that up, and you're going to keep going, right? But about 50,000 years ago, we find in the human record and in the Neanderthalis record, well, we were actually Cro-Magnon at that time, but, there are mainly our direct ancestors. Some can argue that Neanderthals are in some of Homo sapien, about, what was it, like 2 to 6%, average being 2 to 3%. And then in some parts of Africa, there's no Neanderthalis genes at all. It's probably something that we absorbed. This is a whole other tangent, so I'm not even going to bother. We're going to stick to religion. Bottom line is 50,000 years ago, we see with Neanderthals and with Cro-Magnon man, both of our ancestors, that they didn't strip the dead anymore. They began burying their dead with these labor-intensive created items. And they began also gathering flowers, foodstuffs, painting the bodies ritually with red ochre, things of that nature. And so that transmits to us this idea that they are hoping that the dead will continue to exist in some metaphysical place, and that they will require the tools necessary for survival when they reach that place, which is probably why we left those items with them. So the answer is, at a minimum, we've been having the idea of metaphysical continuations, minimum of 50,000 years. And it wasn't just our species that was doing it. We know for sure that there's been a minimum of 3 different species interacting in this kind of behavior. Why they do it is actually a point of argument right now. I'm personally from the camp that thinks that the idea of a metaphysical reality might actually be related to our ability to dream, that we can conceive of an alternative reality. So if we are asleep and we're not moving, but yet we can still conceive of another reality, ancient man could make the connection that perhaps that's what's happening when we're dying. Why that happened about 50,000 years ago and not too much before that, we're not too sure. But we're definitely working on finding out the reason. And as of right now, that's one of my personal educated guesses, studying religion the way that I have. But anyways, Facebook, that's the answer to Charlotte. How old is religion? How long has humanity been playing with religion? The answer is religion is not just with humanity. It's with many, many species on the planet. And we're not as special as we think we are. I'm going to finish drinking my Chambord, and I'll make another video maybe eventually. Thanks, Facebook. Bye.